Jason, Lisa, are we good this morning?
We are, sir.
You have anybody in there with you today, or are you by yourself?
I'm by myself.
Okay, Lisa, hang in there. All right, you guys, we'll go ahead and kick this off. Ladies, we're good to go. And so welcome to the Tuesday, May 31st, 10 o'clock meeting, special meeting. And so I'll call this meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance. Al, you want to lead us in the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Al. Okay, getting started. We'll start with 2A, regular agenda items, information discussion. To present the Copper Valley Watershed Partnerships Watershed Action Plan. Victoria, good to see you. Thanks for being here.
All right. Well, I'll wait for my slides to get loaded. All right, there they are. Well, good morning. My name is Victoria Hermosia, and I have been the coordinator and facilitator for the Copper Valley Watershed Partnership for the last 3 years. And this presentation is to go over why we are here, the Watershed Action Plan that I wrote, and some next steps for the Board of Supervisors to consider. And I have here a copy of the Watershed Action Plan if you wanted to thumb through it. This is actually Melissa Steele's copy. But we're just going to go over some high-level stuff today. So this is the outline of the presentation here. Why are we here today? What is the Copper Valley Watershed Partnership? And some next steps. As you all know, we're in a drought, and we've been in a drought. We're going to continue to be in a drought. This is the outlook for the drought continuing, and you see that the drought is predicted to persist for a bit. This is just another slide to go over that point more. On the left, you see the projections in temperature for the next 12 months from the drought monitor. And on the right, you see precipitation projection for the next 12 months. And in summation, it's going to be hotter and drier. That's what they're predicting. With the exception of January and February, we might get normal temperatures. So why are we here today? We are here because we're facing water challenges. This slide shows the cover for the Water Handbook for the Copper Valley. This was published in 2018 by the Water Resources Research Center of the University of Arizona. This was presented in 2018 at the first water forum that we had. And just some highlights from this handbook. There's a lot of good stuff in here, but these are the highlights I wanted to point out. Regional temperatures have been and will continue to rise. It's going to impact the environmental conditions of the watershed, and by environmental conditions, I mainly mean water. Hotter and drier means that we're going to influence patterns of fire, drought, and flood over time. We saw that with the Telegraph fire, and it impacts the way that water moves on and through the watershed with increased incidence of erosion and sedimentation with the floods that we get off the mountain. And we witnessed that. We witnessed that pretty recently. These are some of the major river systems. You guys have all heard, I'm sure, news about the Colorado River. Not great news, but that news is sort of statewide. You see here on the map, it shows the Colorado River and the CAP Canal. I got this from the CAP website because it's a great map. You see where the Salt River is, north of here, the Gila River, southeast of here, and then the San Pedro River, which is south of here. And I put this slide in to illustrate the fact that we are uphill and far away from all of these major surface water bodies. And that's an important note because there has been some discussion sometimes of, oh, you know, maybe we could bring some water from the salt. Well, it's pretty expensive and we'd be last in line, so not a lot of luck there. So effectively, the other water challenges that this community and the whole county is facing really is that you continue to have demand for water. You have municipal needs, you have fire flow needs, you have industrial needs. So the demands continue, but your supply is going to be diminishing, right? So your income is going down, but your expenses remain. And some of your expenses may even increase over time. There's already insufficient water for fire flow, which is a safety issue, and there's insufficient water for home loans and new construction. So if you want to grow your economy and grow your community a bit more, water is the keystone to get there. And it's challenging. So how do you manage with less? I mean, how do you manage with less in a household budget? You got to have some honest conversations and some collaborative planning. I put the honey pot here to show that you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. I know this was not the technical answer. This is sort of the froofy, woo-woo answer. But really, if you can come to the table with collaboration, you're actually going to get more in the long term than if you're going to come to the table with acrimony. And that's proven, by the way, across the West. People who show up to collaborate get more in the end than they do if they lawyer up. And I've worked with some people who like to lawyer up, so costs more, they get less. So this is where we come in and where we've worked to kind of come in. So what is the Cobra Valley Watershed Partnership? Watershed partnerships are voluntary alliances among vested stakeholders that share a common bond in that they would like to see their watershed improve water quality and maintain or improve the quality of life. And this is us, by the way. This is us at the Chamber of Commerce, starting out, talking it out. The Cobra Valley Watershed Partnership came about through a series of water forums. This is the cover for the first forum. A couple of you were there, if you remember, a few years ago down at Bullion Community Center, where we hosted the first forum. We talked about the vision. We talked about some goals for the partnership. The Cobra Valley Watershed Partnership was funded with a Bureau of Reclamation Water Smart grant. Gila County IDA worked with WRRC to get this on the ground, and I was hired to do the work, so here I am. We have had a series of 4 forums over the last few years, the first one being in 2018, the next in 2019, Forum 3, our first Zoom forum, which was very exciting because of the pandemic, and that's the cover for that. We're all in our little Zoom rooms. And then we recently had one this last October, which focused on after the fire. We felt it was necessary to have a forum focused on what happens after the fire, the floods and the damage that occurred, and some next steps that we could take. One of the other things I needed to do was actually make us a nonprofit organization, officially recognized by the Arizona Corporation Commission. We got there. We finally got there. It was a big lift, but we are officially recognized. We have an IRS tax number, so we have official legal nonprofit standing, and I don't want that to go to waste. So let's quickly go over the plan really quick. This is the plan. If you want to thumb through it, like I said, I got a copy here. There are 3 main parts of the plan. We have the introduction, the watershed action plan and overarching goals, and then implementation. What I want to emphasize really quick is that this plan is not enforceable. This is not a legal, binding, enforceable regulatory document. What this document is a supporting document for existing legal regulatory documents. And I have those listed here from the federal to the state to the local level. Those are the enforceable documents. This really is in support of those, but with the watershed at the focus. This plan also has a robust section on the Gila River adjudication, because I know that's a big concern. If you recall, the Gila River adjudication affects any person or entity that uses surface water or has made claim to water use within the Gila River system, and that includes water uses in the Cobra Valley area. And some of you might be thinking, well, we don't have a river here. What surface water are you talking about? Well, surface water includes the term subflow. And subflow is that legal term that discusses the waters just below the surface of the earth that contribute to and are a part of the surface water flow. That's still being duked out in court, but they're moving quickly, so Pinal Creek is included in that. All right, so the action plan, what are the priorities? This action plan encourages anybody who would like to use this action plan to pick the low-hanging fruit like leaky faucets, leaky distribution pipes, low-flow fixtures. Those are low-hanging fruit. And the priorities, I was mostly done writing this plan when the fire happened, so I had to rewrite a lot of it. But the priorities have been readjusted to be fire restoration and preparedness, flood mitigation, floodplain restoration, and riparian restoration, so anything to do with the channel, and then drought preparedness and water supply security. I specifically chose drought preparedness and water supply security because there are specific federal and state level grants that use that exact language, and this can be a supporting document to help get some of that grant money. Again, high-level overview of some projected benefits by focusing on the watershed and working on different projects. You can help reduce wildfire risk, you can help reduce flood risk, improve water cycling, enhance recharge and water and storage, and improve ecology and ecosystem services. If you would like more details on how these actually work and what these projects can help with, you can talk to me, but this is that high-level overview. The action plan also focuses on integrative management. One of the things I noticed when working on this and working with different groups and individuals is that a lot of people get so focused on exactly the work that they're doing, they forget to look to their neighbors that are doing a lot of the same work or similar work, and if they could break out of that work silo, they would actually see that they could double their efforts and not actually duplicate their efforts. Every time we got to a forum and we had people talking about the work they were doing, you heard people in the audience go, oh, I gotta talk to them after this. You know, I'm working on something similar. And so the action plan does encourage folks to kind of peek out over their little work cubicle or wherever they are and look to what their neighbors are doing and work better with each other, because there's actually a lot of good work being done. The action plan has a series of project roadmaps. So over the course of writing this watershed action plan, a lot of folks came to me and said, hey, this is a thing we should do. This is a specific project I want to see in this area. And I thought, well, that's a really cool project. Let's include that. And when I stepped back and looked at it, there wound up being about 12 groups of projects, 12 types of projects, like urban trails or rainwater harvesting or public education and outreach. And so what I did is I grouped them into their types and put together these roadmaps so anybody can literally tear a page out of this action plan, write a grant, develop a project using the partners, using an action plan laid out, using the milestones that I put in, so that a lot of the writing, hopefully, is mostly done. A lot of the planning is mostly done with these roadmaps. I want these roadmaps to be actionable immediately for anybody who wants to use them. And then, of course, at the bottom are partnership goals where a lot of these projects overlap or meet the goals of the project. So how do we keep this going forward? Well, we need to keep it funded. I have been funded for the last 3 years for through a Bureau of Reclamation Water Smart grant. But there's still a lot of work to be done. The watershed restoration priorities and top projects identified above can't be implemented without concerted effort and a champion for the watershed. There are multiple funding mechanisms available. You could develop a local funding mechanism like the Gila Watershed Partnership. You don't have the same kind of situation where they have lots of different farmers and irrigators that can pay membership fees. You have a slightly different situation here, but that is one option. More Bureau of Reclamation grants for specific projects like drought contingency planning, state funding, local grants, other funding sources as they are identified. But what I really want to talk to you about today is hopefully getting the county behind this. Through the work that I've done here, one of the things I noticed is that this problem is not just concentrated in the Globe Miami area. This problem is in Pine Strawberry. This problem is in Payson. This problem is in the greater state of Arizona. We're all in the same drought, and there are a lot of legacy challenges both here and through different small communities throughout the county. One of those legacy problems is developing over time before we had water distribution standards, right? So you got a lot of leaks in the distribution system, and you have a lot more demand because of either the pandemic, people wanting to work from home, where home is really nice and cool in the pine trees, or even just more tourism, right? People come in for the weekend and they put big demand on your municipal system. You can't keep up. So I'm here to encourage the Board of Supervisors to consider either creating a new water resources position or contracting a water resources professional to help move this forward. A county level professional could work with this more consistently and comprehensively, be the main point of contact, show county level support, conduct administrative duties. And this is important because a lot of the grants that I discussed actually do not cover administrative duties. They're very specific about what you can and cannot spend your grant money on. And there are a lot of administrative duties like setting meetings, putting together agendas, making sure you're reaching out to people, and all those things take time. Writing for grants and implementing them, developing plans, tracking benefits, milestones, and accomplishments, and then reporting directly to the Board of Supervisors. It's actually very important to track benefits and accomplishments so you can show the work that you're doing is actually doing good in the community, and it sets you up to get more funding from other grants later if you can show that you're successful with them in the first place. So I put together a list of some immediate next steps for you to consider. Getting that water resources person, attack some of the low-hanging fruit. We already know that the community pool is being revamped as we speak. It should open this summer, fingers crossed. Having some rainwater harvesting sites, water line repairs and upgrades, wastewater upgrades, low flow fixture replacements. These are all low-hanging fruit that are currently being worked on or can be worked on immediately. And then continue to apply for some grants. There's one particular program that I've highlighted here. It's the Sonoran Institute Land and Water Use Workshop. We have worked to try to put together a team to attend this 3-day workshop from the community, which includes people from town of Miami, City of Globe, some folks in between, where effectively the community team comes together and learns in this workshop how to remarry land use planning and water use planning. If any of you are familiar with Arizona land use history, it's build it and we'll get the water somehow. And they have been generally divorced from a lot of historical planning. And what this workshop aims to do is help people bring back land use and water use planning as a single resource issue. After a community group goes through this workshop, they do actually have the opportunity to apply for a $10,000 implementation grant to start implementing the plan they put together in the workshop. So we've tried twice, maybe the third time will be a charm. We can get a team down and get through this workshop, but it would be very helpful. I'm sure you're wondering how much this would cost, so I put together sort of a high and low estimate for you to consider. At 20 hours a week, if you had an individual contractor come in, say at $50 an hour, it would be about $50,000. And then for a consulting firm, like the consulting firm I work for in my other job, because I have 2 jobs, why not? My hourly rate is $135 an hour, and that's from just me, and that's not for any of my project managers, which of course are more expensive. You're gonna have to anticipate that folks are gonna have to drive around the county. I just put the federal mileage rate up there. And then one of the things that I could have done a lot better on is marketing the work that we were doing. In order to get traction and get support and get more people involved, you gotta talk about the good work you're doing. And I did not talk about the good work we were doing enough through this process. And so I put that line item there to say, you gotta maintain the website, you kinda have to put yourself out there a lot more to get people talking about it. And so sort of the pros and cons of an individual contractor versus a consulting firm. The individual contractor can be more flexible, obviously more affordable, but there can also be some bottlenecking, and they're vulnerable to life impacts, like having a baby, like I did, and that does impact what you can and can't do. Now with a consulting firm, you do have a team approach. You'll probably have a project manager overlooking some of the work being done. You have more resources like software and bigger libraries, but they are more expensive and there could be potential conflicts of interest. So I know the consulting firm that I work for, they do contract with one of the mines in this area, and so to try to be as ethical and above ground as I can be, you know, I know that there are limitations of what I can and cannot do, and I'm probably not the right person to continue this work forward because of the other work my company does here in the area. But anyways, all of this to say, these are some estimate numbers. If you wanted to put out an RFQ for somebody to help you out, you know, you could start getting RFQs and getting some cost estimates, but this was my initial estimation, so you would at least have some figures in mind. And at this point, I think I've talked your ears off, and here I'm available for any comments, questions, concerns, or complaints.
Thanks, Victoria. Supervisor Humphrey, questions, comments?
A lot of concerns, not a lot of questions.
Okay.
Water is important, and I'm glad to see that there are grants available because a lot of the private water companies. Oh, better turn my mic on. Are losing like up to 30% of the water they're pumping out of the ground, which is horrible.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that there are grants available because I think low-hanging fruit, that's some of the best low-hanging fruit for us to get control over, because we've had a lot of issues with private small water companies that are having major issues. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Supervisor Christensen.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Victoria. Appreciate the presentation. So I absolutely agree that we have water problems. We can't do anything about the drought. That's just something that comes from God or doesn't come from the atmosphere. And so we just have to deal with these shortages. And as Gila County grows, which it will, as Arizona grows, as the Southwest grows, and all of that, then the demand on water just gets more and more. So it is a great concern of mine as well. So what you're suggesting somewhat is what I found was that we should try to institute some of this low-hanging fruit in the form of an ordinance or in the form of a volunteer reward system.
You know, there are a lot of ways to approach this. I know right now, or pretty recently, Arizona Water Company hired an engineering firm to conduct an audit of their system to identify what size distribution pipes they have, what their material is, where the leaks occur. So, you know, low-hanging fruit is, what do I have and where is it, right? And then from there, you can figure out how you can upgrade. Now, that is handled at the municipal water distribution level, but having support from the county to either help coordinate or to help collaborate between different partners. I know that there are a few different water suppliers in this area, whether it's City of Globe Water Utility, Arizona Water Company, or even smaller, you know, pocket neighborhood private water purveyors, at least having communication between them. And I know that there has to be intertie for emergency services, or if something goes wrong on one side, you can still deliver water to folks. I know that there are water infrastructure grants available and loans, very low interest loans available through the state of Arizona, and oftentimes after so much time, those loans can sometimes be forgiven. But the point of this presentation, what I wanted to emphasize here is that support from the county helps provide leadership from the front and support from the front. And I know City of Globe Water Utility is doing the best it can, but they don't have the capacity for somebody to try to lead the charge with proactive water resources management. They're doing their best to just like make sure no leaks are happening and nothing bad is going wrong. And so having somebody at a little higher level to help work with them, provide any support, even if it's like moral support initially, or help write those grants with them. Since we are a nonprofit organization, we can actually write grants on behalf of municipal providers as partners in these sorts of things. And that's allowable through Bureau of Reclamation and other grants that I've looked at. So it's the legality, the actual financial part of it with some of that low-hanging fruit does have to be handled at the utility level, but having additional support of, hey, I've got the time to write a grant for you and with you, right? You have the time that you have to spend on pipes, wells, pumps, and et cetera. Use your time for that, and I can use my time as this ancillary support. Does that kind of make sense?
It
Okay.
does, thanks. And Victoria, so another ask is for us to consider having a personnel, a department or a person that could oversee some of these watershed things and focus on that.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
So I know City of Globe is very interested, but they have limited capacity with what they can do. Town of Miami, I just spoke with Sammy Gonzalez this morning, the mayor there, and he is deeply interested, but he's only got so much that he can do. You know, what I noticed in this county is that everybody wears several hats. And it's hard to say, hey, could you put on another hat with the 10 hats that you already have on? I know that this is a small county. And so having somebody dedicated for that and at the county level helping to lead the charge would probably be more beneficial than just City of Globe trying to do its thing, or Town of Miami, or just me, little old me, being like, hey, let's talk about water and see if I can start a website.
Okay, thanks. I
Yes.
really appreciate it, Victoria. Thank
Of
you.
course.
Good presentation, Victoria.
Thanks.
Big subject, though, I will
yeah.
say. So, you know, when you talk about the county tackling something like this, we'd be looking at the full size of the county.
Right.
And that adds a humongous workload to that from both ends of the county. So there is a need, you know, I see that. But one of the questions I've had with what you've done so far, have you been working with the Forest Service here locally with any of these projects, or have they still been a partner or player in this?
They are a key partner. Ranger Adam Bromley is on our leadership board. He's deeply invested in this. His background is actually in watershed management from the forest level. So before he came here, he helped in Colorado with watershed management things. The city of Denver actually paid the Forest Service to manage a specific watershed because they saw after a very devastating fire, it cost them a few $100 million for their municipal system to recover because all of the debris, all of the ash, it really ruined their system. And they thought, oh, for just tens of millions of dollars, we could have just had a better watershed and we would never had to have paid millions and millions and millions to clean up after. So I know Adam Bromley is deeply invested in this and forest health. I've worked a lot with Cheryl Cormack on the recreation side. There's lots of water stuff you can do with recreation as well. So I know they're invested in this. I know they want to help out to the very best of their ability.
So another question then is all the work that we've done and been a part of since the fires, you know, all the drainage mitigations, does that kind of fit into the overall scheme of what you've been working on?
It absolutely does. There are different modifications that you can do. So let's say, for example, with Pinal Creek, you get this big flood, you get all of this debris that comes down, you get all this mud all over everything. What you can do, there are different ways to rechannelize the stream, rework the banks of the channel, and enhance the floodplain on the side. So, you know, typically you've got your channel and floodplain 1, 2, 3, you have different levels of floodplain. By helping the stream work the way it's supposed to, you actually get better infiltration into the subsurface. You get better distribution of that energy because, you know, if you have a highly channelized stream, you're focusing all that energy into a smaller space, so it gets more destructive, right? So you are working on stormwater management, floodplain management, and you're enhancing the water that's available. So I know immediately in the aftermath of a fire and debris flow, you just want to get that out, right? You just want to move stuff out of the way. But there are proactive steps that you can take, which are outlined here in the Watershed Action Plan. I go into actually a lot more detail about different ways that you can move the earth to help the stream work the way it's supposed to. And we've all, we've had an impact on the planet, right? There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So it's our responsibility to revise our impact, right? You know, through downtown Globe, it's just a highly channelized area, but there are different places that you can readjust the banks and help the stream work the way it's supposed to, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it all does. So getting back to the county-wide type of program, would one person be enough to do that? Because I see, you know, as a county, we work with everybody. We work with the feds, we work with private, we work with nonprofits, we work with everybody there. So, and it'd be quite a job.
Oh, yeah. This has been quite a job.
Yeah.
And, you know, this first phase, I just want you all to know, I have not implemented any projects, right? The first phase of this work was getting our nonprofit status and writing this action plan, right? And that was a lot in and of itself. But now that this is done, now that this is ready to go, somebody can work with this and start being that one person. I think, you know, like I said, I put up there just somebody at 20 hours a week. I'm sure they would probably need to work more. But just as a starting point, you can have one person really start to build out these relationships, build out these connections, work on these grants. I mean, I was able to do this mostly on my own. At a few points when I was writing this, I hired a student or two from the U of A to help me flesh out some of the text, right? Stuff that I didn't really have time for. But then, honestly, the calls, setting up the meetings, I worked a lot with Ashley Hollinger at the WRC. They're still deeply invested in this area, and they're finishing up their report that they've been working on also for the last 3 years. There is other support, like from the Extension Office. I know one person couldn't handle this exclusively, but this is also a partnership. And kind of the partnership is, okay, you're doing this, I'm spearheading this, and I'm just making sure all these parts are moving as they're supposed to move. But that was the other part of the line item chart that I showed you, is that if you went maybe with like a consulting firm, for example, you would have more of a team approach available. Or, you know, if you wanted this from the county, you could say like, I want 2 people in this department, you know, one person to handle the marketing and one person to handle the relationships. There are different ways that you can set up the structure depending on what your your main focus or your main goals are, or kind of some of the main outcomes you want out of this.
So the other question, Victoria, is what was the dates on that workshop?
Oh, which workshop?
The Sonoran?
Oh gosh, okay. So this year passed. They had the workshop, I want to say March. They had to move the dates around because the pandemic was still kind of being a little bit weird and they were being extra cautious. The application is going to come around again, I want to say, oh goodness, November, December-ish. And then they actually, so they pay for everything. They pay for the team to stay at a hotel, be fed and watered, and then meet in one of the meeting rooms in a hotel in Phoenix. I think really all the team has to pay for is getting there. Everything else is covered.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Very good presentation, though. Do you guys have anything else?
No,
We're
I
good?
would just that we are working on 4 of our major watersheds here in southern Gila County. We've got our county team is working with J.E. Fuller that has engineered a lot. And when you get the ball rolling, it's difficult because a lot of the waterways are privately owned and you need to get access, and
Yes.
then you run into utilities and things. So, yeah, it's a great thing to try to get in these and redo them. But like I say, we're working on 4 watersheds after the fires over the last 3 years in southern Gila County, and so we're doing all we can to restructure some of our waterways at this point. But as we go forward, we're limited because of private properties and things of that nature. But yeah, we are working on some major waterways after our fires.
Great. I know that access and private property is a huge issue because of the historical nature of development through the county. Legacy properties, people hanging on to properties through generations. It's important to have vision to kind of work through that, but I know that's a huge challenge, and I commend you for trying to work through that, and access and permits and paperwork and this and that, and it adds up over time. But as you saw with the Telegraph fire, responding to something is always more expensive than trying to be proactive about it. And with water, it accrues interest over time. We're past the era of cheap water, we're past that. And that's, I want to leave you with that water is not going to get cheaper.
Thank you, Victoria.
you.
You good, Steve?
Well, I was just going to add, thank you, Chairman, that if we did consider having not a consultant, but someone, a coordinator that we would hire, whether that's one person or a team of people, and I know we probably already have people in the county that are doing various aspects of this, but if we had someone that was just concentrated on that and dealing with Forest Service and the different, SRP, all the different players when it comes to our surface water, groundwater, and all of those things, that I think that would be something that we should consider doing. I think that would be a good idea, that the county would step up to do that, because we as Americans have always been very confident in everything going the same as it always has, that we would never run out of anything. We would always have an abundance, no matter where we were, the grocery store, wherever it was. And this last couple of years, it just shows that we can end up having shortages. And when we have a natural resource like water that people have been fighting over for a long time, hundreds of years, it's only going to get worse, and we should probably have a more coordinated effort toward that. That's just a comment. Thank you.
Victoria, thank you. Very good presentation.
Thank you so much, and I'll be around after if you have additional questions.
Cool.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
All right, moving on to 2B, information discussion. Action to approve a collection agreement between the Arizona Game and Fish Department and the Gila County Sheriff's Office in the amount of $24,991 to purchase one MR 470R-PT inflatable boat and one galvanized trailer. Matt Binney, how are you?
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. So on April 5th, 2022, we brought this agreement before you guys, and you guys approved it then. It was for, again, that Inmar boat and Game and Fish funding $24,991. That original agreement that this board approved included some legal terminology that was added on our side. When it was sent back to Game and Fish, there was some issues with that. Both sides of legal have now have agreed to the original agreement that was provided by Game and Fish with the removal of that legal terminology, but it doesn't change the amount being provided by Game and Fish nor what we're going to purchase with it.
Good, thank you, Matt. Supervisor Humphrey, questions, comments? Your mic. There you go.
Okay. I said, I think the lake guys have already been trying to use this boat, so I think they'll be anxious to get it.
Supervisor Christensen,
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Matt, for the presentation. Yeah, I have no questions.
and neither do I, Matt. So I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the collection agreement between the Arizona Game and Fish Department and the Gila County Sheriff's Office as presented.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
2C, information, discussion, action to authorize the chairman's signature on AT&T quote revision dated 05/06/2022 for the Gila County Sheriff, NGCS, and CHAAS, and authorize the Finance Department to issue a purchase order against state contract number CTR 055782 in the amount of $819,881.50 for the period of July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2027. Deborah Williams. Good morning, Deborah.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Supervisors. Yes. Okay. Is that better? Yeah, okay. So this morning I have 3 items for you. This first one being a request for a purchase order for next generation 911 implementation of an EZNet. And the changes in 911 this last year through the state have been related to changing the contract owned by the county versus now the contract will be owned by the state. They will be managing a statewide 911 connectivity system, which is the EZNet, the Emergency Services Internet Protocol Network. And what they did was they issued an RFP last year and awarded it to AT&T. And it is a 5-year contract that they have. And so in order for the PSAPs to get connected to this EZNet, they're asking for a purchase order that covers 5 years of costs that have been estimated by the state and AT&T. And because Gila County is the 911 administrator for our network, the state is asking for one PO from each network administrator, so that would cover us and the town of Payson. I've done my best to bottom line it for you in the agenda item, and I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Deborah. Supervisor Humphrey.
I don't have any questions.
Supervisor Christensen.
Thank you, Chairman. And just so that I understand, the $819,000, James, maybe you can answer this. Is that our money? Is that grant money? Is that, where's that money come from?
Okay, it's the 911 excise tax that is paid by everyone that has a phone, either a landline or a phone line or a VoIP line. The state is legally obligated to collect it and to distribute it to the 911 administrators in the state of Arizona.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you, Deborah.
You're welcome.
Deborah, I'm good, so I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to authorize the chairman's signature on the AT&T quote revision dated 5/6/2022 for the Gila County Sheriff NGCS/CHAAS, and authorize the Finance Department to issue a purchase order against state contract number CTR 055782 in the amount of $819,881.50.
I will second.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor do so by saying aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. Okay, on to D. Information, discussion, action to approve the fiscal year 2023 Arizona 911 program grant agreement number ADOA-AZ911-22-05 with the Arizona Department of Administration in the amount of $509,912 for the performance period of July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. Deborah?
Okay, so this is the ADOA contract for this fiscal year budget. It includes funding equal to last year that will cover any remaining cost with CenturyLink Lumen, who is currently providing our 911 services. And it also includes the first year of grant funding for the AT&T EZNet that is being installed. And so that way concurrently, we won't have concurrent systems, but AT&T will be able to come in and do their upgrades, and we will have a transition over in the month of July, and hopefully just go from there. Any remaining funds, should Lumen not require cost recovery for the end of the contract, those funds would revert back to the state because we don't actually get the funds, we only get them through reimbursement. And so then those funds would be available for other 911 projects.
Thank you, Deborah. Supervisor Humphrey, any questions?
I have no questions.
Supervisor Christensen?
No questions, thank you.
Neither do I, so I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the fiscal year 2023 Arizona 911 Program Grant Agreement number AD0A-AZ911-22-05.
Do I have a second?
You have a second.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 2E, information, discussion, action to authorize the chairman's signature on the fiscal year 2023 intergovernmental agreement between the town of Payson and Gila County AZ for centralized management of 911 grant funds for the performance period from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. Your last one, Deborah.
This is the last one. This is the agreement that we have with the town of Payson to manage reimbursement and payment for the 911 services that we are contracting from the state.
Supervisor Humphrey, any questions?
No, I have no questions.
Supervisor Christensen?
No questions, thank you.
Good job, Deborah.
Thank you, sir.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to authorize the chairman's signature on the FY 2023 intergovernmental agreement between the town of Payson and Gila County AZ for the centralized management of 911 grant funds.
I will second.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you,
Thanks.
supervisors.
On to 2F, information discussion regarding the creation of a Gila County Environmental Health Ordinance. Michael O'Driscoll.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. If you give me 1 second, I'll give you a handout.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, I don't think I really need, oh, but if I do. Great, thanks. Good morning again. So just as a quick reminder, back in late August of 2021, during a work session, I came in front of you to discuss the creation of a EH ordinance, and I received favorable feedbacks from the three of board members. And then at that time, what I told you I would do is do some editing to this and go ahead and meet with some of our stakeholders in the onsite wastewater program to get their feedback and see where the contractors are with this code and everything else. So what I'd like to do is start with, it's at the very end of this new ordinance that I'm proposing. It's the onsite wastewater section. Just to let you know that we did go back to the contractors. Jake Garrett had several meetings with the on-site wastewater contractors. We went over the code with them front and back, this new ordinance. We received their feedback and we incorporated their changes into the ordinance. So that particular section of the ordinance, the on-site wastewater, the contractors are very favorable with this particular ordinance. And all this ordinance is it's a compilation of everything that we do in the health department that is an enforcement-related activity. In other words, with the on-site wastewater, we have a delegation agreement with ADQ to enforce the on-site wastewater program, to issue permits, to verify soils tests, to go out there and make sure that the on-site wastewater systems are installed properly. And then the majority of this ordinance is everything that's in our Title 36 delegation agreement with the State Health Department. And I believe that was part of the package that I put on agenda quick. And we have quite a few activities with the delegation agreement, including swimming pools, campgrounds, children camps, schools, hotel motels, food establishments, those kinds of activities. So what I have done is just taking state law that we already enforce and put it into one particular ordinance. In my view, this allows us a heck of a lot more transparency on what we do in the health department and how we enforce these things, instead of every time we go through an enforcement process pulling from different state laws. It's just confusing to my staff, and it's confusing to talk to anybody that is going through property maintenance enforcement, exactly what we do. Each time we have to go to different parts of the ARS, the state statutes, or the administrative code. So I took all that and put it into this one document. Everything in this document is what we currently do. There are very little changes at all to any of the ordinances that we currently enforce. We have some slight changes with the on-site wastewater ordinance by incorporating the contractor's comments in there. And we also included a little section in there that with the ordinance that allows us to make sure that anybody who owns a home that has sewer lines coming through it, for instance, the Tri-City Sanitary District, it allows, our ordinance specifies that we will not give a permit to somebody who has sewer right in front of their house. So that's basically one of the additions that Tri-City asked us to put in there, and I agreed completely that if there's a sewer line in front of a home, that they're to connect to the sewer line instead of try to squeeze an on-site wastewater system onto that property. So that is one of the changes we incorporated, and the contractors in Tri-City agreed with that as well. So what I gave you, the package I gave you, has to do with the food fees. So we have fees for the on-site wastewater system. We did not change those. I gave you that package because that's the big change. There's two big changes to the food program. The first change is the state health department in 2021 required all county health departments to adopt the FDA 2017 food code. That was a big change because each health department around the state had their own health FDA food code. We were running on the 2013 food code. Other counties had the 1999 food code. So they required 2017 food code adoption by all health departments, which makes it easy for us here, because what we have done is taken exactly what the FDA food code says is the risk type for each facility, and we've incorporated that into our fees. And what that really means is basically the FDA food code specifies 4 risk types for food facilities. The risk type 1 is the very little risk. In other words, it's the Circle K, right? It has very limited amount of food preparation, very limited amount of food at all. And it's very low risk. Compared to risk 4, which is a hospital setting with their cafeteria. You're dealing with a lot of people who come through that need dietary needs. It's a larger facility. We spend more time in the higher risk types than we do in the lower risk types. So what I have done here is we have changed the permit fees based on the risk typing of those four types of food facilities. And if you notice, I gave you the old food fees, and then I gave you, right after that, I gave you the new food fees that we're proposing in this ordinance. The last time these fees were looked at were 2004, so a very long time ago. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to make our food program self-sustaining. So we're not charging so high a fee that we're making a profit, right? Because that's not allowed by state law. So what we have done is we've adjusted some of the fees. We've lowered some of the fees because some of the low-risk food facilities were actually paying a high-risk type of permit fee in the past. So we've lowered some fees for a lot of people, and we've increased some fees for the higher risk types because we do spend a lot more time in the higher risk types. They're larger facilities. There's more food preparation. There's more higher risk food preparation going on in those types of facilities. So what we have done is we've increased the fees a little bit, lowered the fees a little bit, and then I have contacted each and one of you and received feedback as far as the not-for-profit status. And so if it's a not-for-profit food facility, such as the Moose Lodge and those kinds of things, the senior centers, we have waived those fees. And so the finances on that is we've waived, if you add up the not-for-profit fee waivers, it comes to about $17,000. So what we have done is the financing on that is pretty simple. We have 2 full-time employees who go into these facilities, do inspections, one up north, one down south. If you add up their salaries, it comes to about $141,000, $143,000. So with this fee structure, if you add up the fees, we come to about $141,000. So included with all the not-for-profits being exempt. So we've come very close to becoming self-sufficient. $2,000 a little is less, but we make that up on the on-site wastewater side. Currently we're making some pretty good fees there because of the increased building and the increased permit activity that we're seeing. So we really have come close to being self-sufficient with this particular program, with that current fee structure there. That's the big change in the food code. We've made it easier to identify what types of facility or what type of risk type based on the FDA 2017 food code. So if you look at the old fee structure, we have about 36 different types of fees with the, including temporary events and mobile vendors. With the new fee structure, we've dropped that down to about 23. And we've eliminated the square footage requirement. In other words, the old fee structure said if you had this square footage, you were gonna be charged more than a smaller place. But the simple truth is it doesn't matter about the size of the facility. It matters what they're doing inside. If they're doing high-risk foods inside, pre-preparation, cooking, cooling, those kinds of things, we're in a small facility just the same amount as we are a larger facility. So we've eliminated the square footage part of the fee structure to make it easier for everybody. All the other sections of the health ordinance I'm proposing in this document comes directly from our delegation agreement. There is no change to the swimming pools, school facilities, school inspections, school grounds inspections, those kinds of things. There's absolutely no change. We've just brought all of that into one document, what we are currently doing. So, and I have run this through Marion over there, who edited it. Thank you, Marion, I appreciate it. And we've had several eyes on this, and I've also given this to the county attorney's office to review. So the next time I come in front of the board, probably during a full board meeting to make this proposal. We'll have all of our ducks in a row for this. And that's the gist of this entire ordinance, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Michael.
You bet.
Supervisor Humphrey, questions, comments?
Just comments. Michael, thank you for all you do and keeping up on the ordinances and keeping up on things that you're responsible for. I appreciate it very much. Wastewater and things, I've had complaints on soil tests, and you work on that. And so, like you say, updating things that haven't been updated since 2004. I just appreciate your efforts that you put into keeping the health department running the way it does.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Supervisor Christensen.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Michael. Very good presentation. So a couple questions, though.
You bet.
If this becomes an ordinance, are the fees locked into that ordinance, or are they going to be flexible going forward? Do we have to have a new ordinance every time that changes?
So the fees are locked in to the ordinance unless there's a proposal by myself to the board to change those fees. And then I'd have to come in front of the board because all those fees would have to be, all the changes in the fees have to be approved through you. And then we just incorporate the new fee schedule into the ordinance.
As a revision?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And I think we should update this stuff more often than what we do. But I do like the way you're doing it with the different risk factors. The whole thing, it makes a lot more sense. And when it comes to fees, I'm a proponent of coming up as high as we can to breaking even, because we're charging people, it's sort of like in community development, they get charged permit fees, services are done and everything. And so if we're not charging enough there, then the other taxpayers that are not using that service have to pay for that. And so if a builder is gonna build something, or if a restaurant's gonna do something, they need to pay that and not have that fee spread out over the whole county, because it's not enough. So, that's kind of my philosophy. The nonprofits, I know there's a lot of sympathy toward nonprofits. Nonprofit does not, it's really the way you file your taxes, doesn't mean they're broke.
Right.
Okay, so, I would not reject the idea of them paying the full amount too. I mean, they're not a hardship case, they're just a nonprofit.
Correct.
And so if it goes along with the same philosophy, if they don't have to pay, then someone else has to. Okay, that's all I have, thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Michael. It's good work. I'm a little different on the fee stuff. There's one thing that I've thought about a lot lately, and it's been on my mind quite a bit. We keep charging for services, not only, something like this, but in community development and other things, looking to recoup money back for what we're putting in there. But there comes a point in my mind where I keep thinking about, why are we paying taxes then? What do your taxes go for? Now, I've thought about, other ways of looking at it as a percentage of what it's costing us or something like that. So these are things in my mind that keep going on. When it comes to these fees, it is expensive today, cost of doing business, and whether we like it or not, we are a business. But these are things that are always in my mind, especially here lately. I think this is a very good starting point. I think you've done a lot of good hard work with it. And so I want to tell you thank you for you and your department for putting all this together. And thanks for the senior centers and those folks. Those are nonprofits that do struggle and they serve a lot of people that have already spent a lifetime paying taxes. And so thank you for all that.
You're welcome. One of the struggles many health departments have and counties around Arizona have is there's, I think, 3 counties that are health districts, right? So they receive a certain amount of money from the property taxes and sales taxes each year. Those health departments have very low fees simply because they receive that tax money to support those programs. So if you compare us to some of those 3 counties, our fees are a little bit higher, but not too unreasonable. So we receive our money through the general fund budget, which is a little bit different. And we also have the advantage of our fees are still middle to low compared to other counties because we receive $45,000 a year in Smoke-Free Arizona funding, which in 2017, they actually put that into our delegation agreement. All that means is we receive $45,000 to pay for one of our employees' salaries, go towards that salary to investigate smoke-free complaints. You know, cigarette smoking inside, too close to the entrances, too close to the exit, those kinds of things. So if you took out that 45,000, then we'd certainly be underneath.
Yeah.
We certainly would not be anywhere near self-sufficient, so we do have that advantage at least.
Well, thank you. Thank you for
You're
all of it.
welcome.
I appreciate it, and I'm really, really happy Jake got with the contractors and other people and run this through them. So that'll help a little bit too. So thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on to G. Information discussion action to adopt policy number BOS COB-005, claims and service. Marion?
Thank you, Chairman Klein and board members. To give you a quick rundown on this, just to be clear, the clerk of the board's office has had a procedure in place for many years for claims and service of process. However, we've never had a policy that was presented to the board for adoption with the related procedures. So that's what the purpose of today's agenda item is. As background, many years ago, at the recommendation of Georgia Staten, who was the county's consultant attorney, the county manager instructed Sarah White and myself to write a policy and procedures for accepting claims. This was done, and for whatever reason, it got just held up in the attorney's office. So several years ago, I decided to just dispose of that, I thought. So I surveyed other counties, and I got a lot of policies and procedures, and I pretty much copied Maricopa County, but I streamlined it down for this size county and what we do and how we do it, and with only having 2 staff members in my department. So anyway, this procedure addresses accepting service of notice of claims, summons, complaints, subpoenas, garnishments, tax appeals, and other appropriate documents. And in summary, the clerk of the board's office accepts service for Gila County and the Gila County Board of Supervisors. It does not accept service for individual supervisors. So if somebody wanted to, say, sue you, Supervisor Klein, they would serve it on you. We would not accept it because then it's up to you. And the best part about this procedures, we now have log sheets for easier reference, and if the attorney asks, what did you receive, we have everything logged in, and it's an easier retention schedule according to what the state requires. And that's it in a nutshell.
Good job, Marion.
Thank you.
Supervisor Humphrey, questions for Marion?
No, none other than thank you.
You're welcome.
Supervisor Christensen?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Marion. I believe this will mark the last presentation that you will have or conduct
Right.
in your career here at Gila County, so thank you for that.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you, Marion. Really appreciate it. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt policy number BOS-COB-005.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, do so by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Good job, Marion. Okay, moving on to 3, call to the public. I guess we don't have any consent agenda items today, huh? I think that's the first for me. Yeah. All right, is there any call to the public in Payson, Lisa?
No, sir.
And Dave, how about on YouTube? And we don't have any here, so we'll move on to number 4. And let's start with you, Supervisor Christensen.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. So, last couple of weeks, been a bit busy. Did attend the Memorial Day service at Green Valley Park yesterday. It was very inspiring, very moving. A lot of people there, and our own Matt Binney of the Sheriff's Department presented the main speech. Something I learned about Matt was that he's a former Green Beret Special Services that was wounded severely in Afghanistan and spent about 4 months in the hospital recovering, almost lost his life. Silver Star, Bronze Star, and of course a Purple Heart. So it was very moving, and appreciate that in him. So we have a great person in our Sheriff's Department. They're a real hero in my opinion. Through my constituent funds, the county sponsored the first place prize for a new thing that the Rim Country Chamber of Commerce put on called Moonshot, and it was to increase entrepreneurship. And so about 8 participants were in that. The winner was Terry and Rick of the Lavender Farm up in Pine. If you haven't seen that, you really need to go. Really cool. And also, along with Victoria, kind of in reference, I did have a meeting with Haley Paul, and she's part of this thing called Water for Arizona Coalitions. And so I have a packet for the supervisors if they'd like to look at that. And so, as was mentioned earlier, this is just another group that's working on trying to help our water situation. They're doing it through a coalition of their own and things like that. So there's a lot of groups that are working on that. And I will be conducting a town hall at our new Tommy Klein Martin Complex, June 13th for the public. So I look forward to that, and attended with James and my wife the Small Counties Forum Dinner last Wednesday. Navajo County sponsored it. Really good food and a good time that we had there. And so it was good. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Supervisor Humphrey?
I'll pass this time, thanks.
Okay, so I think the last time I was here, yeah, I better do James first. I will forget you. Go ahead, James.
Easily forgotten. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I want to remind you that on June 11th, there is a activity where the Discover Gila County website will be honored as the Partner of the Year. There will be a dinner associated with that, and this is something that has never happened, that another governmental entity has been designated or honored as the Partner of the Year with the Arizona Game and Fish Department. It's a great thing that you as the Board of Supervisors foresaw several years ago in being able to establish that website, and has brought us great benefits through financial and exposure to Gila County. So thank you for your foresight and insight, and we appreciate that that it's kept going and continues to get awards. I also did want to, as Supervisor Christensen mentioned, Ms. Shepherd, I know you won't want me to do this, but I'm sorry. Gila County, the Board of Supervisors, and I thank you for what you have contributed to Gila County. You are a fabulous person that that is wonderful to work with, will continue to be wonderful to work with. You have brought a degree of professionalism to Gila County. You have raised everyone around you to a level of excellence and being able to achieve excellence. And so I thank you from the bottom of my heart and wish you the best in all you do, and know that you will be around here because you, like many of us, we love Gila County, and you in particular have devoted yourself for many, many years to lifting us all where we stand here in place and being a great county that Gila County is. Thank you, and that's large part in due to you. Thank you.
25 years. Right on, Marion. That's good. Well, we'll all miss you, but we'll see you around here, so. Okay, last time I was here, I think it was, I was on my way to Alaska to WIR conference. That conference was a very good conference. Toured some sites right there in Anchorage with BLM and whatnot, and then the next day, ended up attending a mental health workshop in it, and that was really interesting. Mental health is nationwide, big issue all over, and so it's being addressed well. So I was glad I made it. It was a good time, seen a lot of good people again, and things went well. After that, I came back, had one eco meeting afterwards, just the preliminary stuff, and then last week, I attended by Zoom a cattle growers meeting that was held here in the boardroom and is on the screen for everybody else that couldn't make it. That was a good meeting. Our cattle grower group once was pretty strong, with a lot of members. Membership has dropped dramatically. And so one of the things I'm hoping that they'll be looking at is to bring back the Gila County Cattle Sale that was here every spring and go back to work at building that membership back up. So there's a lot of work there. The president of the cattle growers is getting ready to change. That'll take place in September. And so I know that Frank Domlin is looking forward to stepping back, and I know James Rasmussen is looking forward to stepping up. So that'll be really good. Last Friday, I attended a Carrie Lake event in Young. A lot of people there, a lot of them from Payson, a lot of people from Payson, and then several other folks that's running for office. Wendy Rogers, Dave Cook, and I think there's one more, a couple more maybe that's there. Anyway, and then yesterday, Memorial Day, I attended the service in Young. Good turnout, quite a few people there for that service. It was really good. And other than that, I think that is all I had. Did either one of you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I'm good.
You're
thank
good?
you.
James, we got it? How many did we have on YouTube, Dave? At our highest, we got 13. 13? Okay. Well, with that, I believe that concludes our meeting, and I'll adjourn the meeting. Thanks for coming.